Original introduction. Why am I writing this? Well, for the comrades. For them to seek that it is possible and to take courage. To my brother Carlos, I would like to explain why I decided to write this little booklet so that the reader will understand it better. The place where it was written, El Dueso prison at the end of 1991, was crucial. We, the 6 characters of the book, met in the Fies section, which had been inaugurated in July of the same year and was notorious as the toughest prison regime in Spain. I'm not going to tell you in detail what happened during that period, as that would add to the difficulties in writing this book. However, the reader should know that I'm going to butcher the Spanish again, Asociación Pro Derechos, along with the Celheta, put a great deal of pressure on the Basque Parliament and other public bodies to close down the Fies before it was finally closed down in 1993. The tension caused by such conditions, combined with the horrors suffered, had an immediate and implacable effect on prisoners, most of whom had AIDS. 4 out of the 6 of this book. To ward off the alienation of prison, which was particularly hard under the Fies regime, we would talk to each other about any subject that came into our head. And we did so at the window, our means of communication. Sometimes we ended up arguing and adding to the tension, but we also got to know each other intimately. Being closer to each other helped us to cope with our situation as prisoners. We also did other things, certainly not many. We played chess with pieces made out of paper, read a lot of books, and exercised. But one thing we rarely did was write. The reason being, even if we were finally allowed to have correspondence after many months of total isolation, we had to hand in our letters and write the destination address at the top of the page. The guards put the letters in an envelope and sent them to the Dirección General de Instituciones Penitenciarias in Madrid, where the letter was checked, approved, and then sent back to the prison. With this procedure, a letter took months to reach its destination, and it took the same length of time for us to receive letters from the outside. Indeed, it was extremely difficult to keep in contact with the outside. One day I found an advertisement for a literary contest in a newspaper. Applicants were required to write short stories, and I thought it would be great if each of us had a try. I told the others, and everyone except Juan and Barrett was enthusiastic. In the end, only Vasquez and I wrote stories, even though we didn't take part in the contest. Writing a story, however, gave me confidence in my creative abilities, which were obviously not literary abilities. It was then that I decided to write this book. My project involved all of us. We had been labeled as very dangerous people, each of us having committed different kinds of crime. But the one thing that we had in common, and the reason we had been put in Fies, was that all of us were escapists. So why didn't each of us tell the tale of his most spectacular escape? I thought that this was a good way to get out of our poisonous, dull routine, and told my comrades about it to see who wanted to join in. They liked the idea, and we started working on it. As for the method, it was easy. Who knows better than its protagonist about an event? So Estevez, Vasquez, Tario, and I wrote down our stories. Redondo didn't, because Tario's story concerned an escape that they did together. As for Barrett, he had trouble writing, so I tried to piece his story together as though I were a journalist, asking him questions and jotting down his answers. When one of us finished his piece of writing, he read it aloud and I wrote it down, because we were not allowed to pass things from one cell to another. I made a few small corrections, but basically I did not change the original author's vocabulary and style. Then I had the idea of linking the stories by introducing a starling as a narrator. The fact that there was a external narrator put all of us at the same level. In other words, it made it impossible to differentiate the author's identity and prevented him from getting into trouble. Someone suggested that documents should be added at the end of the book in support of our stories, whose credibility might be affected by the presence of the starling narrator. I put together all the newspaper cuttings we had at our disposal and asked my comrades to give me their legal documents, such as court papers, requests of prosecution, etc., so that the truthfulness of our stories could be verified. Only Barrett's documents were missing. His stay at El Dueso had been unbearable for him, and he hanged himself soon after being transferred to the prison of Valladolid. I tried to get his judicial documents from the court and the Guardia Civil in Elda, but they refused. As the book was completed and I was moved to Malaga in order to attend a trial, I gave the manuscript to a friend, Tafala, who later typed it out. I then made further corrections, and my friend had to type it out again. It was in Picassent prison that I finally finished the book. I would like to point out that the research for and elaboration of Adios Prison was my doing, but that the book was written by all of us. Each one did his share. The book is finally being published, but just completing it was a huge satisfaction to each and every one of us. Juan Jose Garcia Rodriguez.